Hey everybody, ronarray here, and Monk been one of the most promising classes and the class that I really wanted to play in PoE Exile 2. So in this video I wanted to showcase my build ideas that I had for Monk and the ideas that I'm probably going to use myself. That's a Monk based on cast on shock and cast on critical, that utilizes Ball Lightning and Orb of Storms together with Tempest Flurry. I think that's going to be a very strong build because of reasons that I'm going to explain further. So let's go and I will tell you what you will need to pick, what kind of skills you're going to go for, and what Ascendancy is going to work with. Also, please keep in mind that that's just a build idea and we So first off, let's start with the Ascendancy and why I picked Invoker for it. So GGG just revealed additional nodes. And one of them, the Soul Springs Eternal, which gives your meta skills 35% more energy, is pretty much catched my eye. I think it should work just perfectly with cast on critical, with cast on shock, with cast on ignite and stuff like that. And we can also just go for passive points, moving for 7 here, to take the Soul Springs Eternal, take 8 with Sunder my enemies, take 9 and scatter them to the winds, because that way we will have additional cast on melee critical hit bonus. And the last passive could vary. We can go for number 3 here, Faith and Choice, and double on Energy Shield. We can go for number 1 for additional Spirit, and I think it's probably what I'm going to do. However, if survivability will suffer, I think we can still go for 3 and take the Meditate. But 1 right now looks very good, because more spirit can mean more reservation, and that's the way to go. So right now let's look at the skills and what exactly I'm planning to do with my build. So the main skill here is going to be Tempest Flurry, because Tempest Flurry has crazy amount of attack speed. As you can see, it has 140% of base value, and that's a lot, to be honest. There's not a lot of attack damage for it, but it doesn't matter. It also have a very cool melee range. Plus 4 to melee strike range is a very good number, and I think it will be pretty comfortable to use Tempest Flurry because you will be able to hit enemies from the distance. But the idea is not the flurry itself. We're going to use cast on shock for 100 spirit reservation to trigger skills, because I think cast on shock would stack very well with Invoker kit. The main skill that we are triggering is Ball Lightning, so we are going to literally cast crazy amount of Ball Lightnings around us, and I think it's going to look fun, it's going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to be very strong right now. The next thing is that we are going to use like a passive is going to be Spell Echo. Spell Echo is going to make our Ball Lightning cast like twice when we are shocking an enemy, and that's very cool. We're also going to use Volley, because Volley will give us additional projectiles. As you can see, Ball Lightning is a projectile, so we are going to cast a lot of Ball Lightnings at the same time, and the cast will be doubled with Spell Echo. So with one cast we will be able to create multiple Ball Lightnings, which is very cool. We're also getting Lightning Mastery here, and the last passive is Wild Shards. I've been choosing between Wild Shards and just multiple projectiles, but I think 20% chance to fire 8 additional projectiles in a circle is a very good bonus, especially since it's like, as you can see, it's tier 1, so the chance is going to be improved and can reach like 50%. And since we have a Spell Echo here, the skill will be cast like twice, so we will roll Wild Shards twice as well. First time we will have like 40% chance, for example, and second cast will have 40% chance again, so I think Wild Shards is stacking very well with it. However, if there will be some issues with Wild Shards and just will not work as I want it to be, well, I will just pick like multiple projectile support on there. For now, I feel like Volley is enough and the Spell Echo is working so good. So that way, every time when we are casting shock, so like when we are shocking enemy with our Tempest Flurry, well, we're going to create a shit fucking ton. So we're going to create a lot of Ball Lightnings at the same time. So that way Tempest Flurry is already shocking, right? So perform a series of aggressive strikes ending with a powerful shocking blow. And it should work kinda good. But right now, in terms of supports, I'm still adding conduction. Supported skills have 100% increased chance to shock, just to make sure that we're shocking consistently. I also have a mana leech here, because as you can see, Tempest Flurry only 60% of physical gold to lightning, 40 is still physical, and we will be able to mana leech, which is pretty nice because we have mana on our Ball Lightning, we have mana on our Tempest Flurry. And I also got additional accuracy here, I think it should work pretty good, so we will not miss. And faster attacks should work with Tempest Flurry by itself, because when we are attacking faster, we are shocking more often, and we are casting even more Ball Lightnings. So it's like a chain reaction. And I also have inevitably critical right here, because we will be able to buff our criticals right chance that way. Why it's important and why I think inevitable critical is good? Because here we have another trigger bonus. So we have cast on critical, we have cast on shock and cast on critical all at the same time. We should have enough spirit for it mostly, because we have number 1 heal, Led Me Through Grace. It gives us spirit based on energy shield and evasion rating of armor. So moving back, with cast on critical, I have another skill which is very good, it's Orb of Storms. So Orb of Storms is pretty much going to stand in one place, it's not going to be used too often, because we will need to crit at least 10 times to pretty much cast Orb of Storms. However, I also have increased limit, since we can cast only one Orb of Storms at the same time, with increased limit we will be able to cast 2. And Orb of Storms provide a pretty So when we look at the Orb of Storms, it chains 3 times and orb disappears after 14 bolts. It casts in bolt every 3 seconds and when you use a lightning skill near the orb. So since right now Tempest Flurry should be a lightning skill, or even if it's not a lightning skill, we're still using like Ball Lightning. And I expect the cast on shock Ball Lightning is going to trigger Orb of Storms, even if Tempest Flurry will not. That way Ball of Lightnings are going to trigger Orb of Storms, and Orb of Storms is going to constantly hit enemies. When it's hitting them 14 times, it will just disappear, and well, that's alright, because we are constantly recasting Orb of Storms. We also can have up to 2 Orb of Storms at the same moment, with increased limit, and I think it's just going to work perfectly fine. We also have Control Destruction here, because we don't really need our Orb of Storms to crit. We already critting with Tempest Flurry, and that's pretty much enough. We also have Ball Lightning, which is critting too, so Orb of Storms could go without critting. Control Destruction is working just fine for it. And we also have Area of Effect, because Area of Effect is going to stack very well with Orb of Storms. Last setup here could be a little different, we have a lot of potential things that they can buff, but right now I'm just leaving it open because I'm not sure what should be there directly. Another cool thing that we are going for is Killing Palm. Killing Palm here just for Culling Strike. I'm going to use it to Culling Strike bosses, to Culling Strike rares, and every other enemy that can survive more than a second in just huge wave of my Ball Lightnings. I'm also going to support it with Behead, and that way we can steal some modifiers from rare monsters when we are killing them. I think it works so good with Killing Palm because we're just Culling Striking enemies and taking their modifiers. The next step is Hand of Chiula, and that's one of the most defensive things that we currently have in that setup. Right now with Hand of Chiula we can get like more duration and heightened cures together with 2 curses. So right now the main curse here is Enfeeble, and I think Enfeeble by itself is just amazing in Path Exile 2. It takes 16% of unique enemies damage and it should feel so good. Also we have a Hex Bloom, so curses from supported skills spread to enemies within 3 meters when a cursed enemy dies. It will help us to pretty much make sure that curses are up on magic monsters or when we have like a few rares fighting us at the same time. And Temporal Chains, it's kinda questionable. Here we can get a few different curses. So for example, Elemental Weakness could be a pretty nice setup for it. But Temporal Chains could slow bosses, and since we are using Hand of Chiula, we are going to get curses with increased effect. Hand of Chiula here can provide 24% increased effect of socketed curses and 24% effect of socketed marks. If I will not pick Temporal Chains here, we can also pick some mark. For example, Sniping Mark give us critical damage bonus, and that's very good. However, Temporal Chains should stay as mostly like defensive thing because it's a very cool skill. So the whole plan is like very simple. They're constantly hitting enemies with Tempest Fuel, Tempest Flurry, they're receiving crits because inevitable critical and they're going to buff crits everywhere. They're also getting like faster attacks, conduction for shock, mana leech and additional accuracy. So it's kinda hard to hit us. And cast on shock is pretty much creating tremendous amount of ball lightning. And ball lightning is literally covering the whole screen non-stop, because it's happening all the time. On top of that, we also have Orb of Storms, which will attack enemies consistently. Against rares, we are going to use Killing Palm, and I also included Bell, so Tempest Bell. I think it should work kinda alright. It's not really mandatory, so if you dislike the Bell, you can completely drop it, but I still think there's like a place in the build to pretty much use the Bell. And the last part, if we will have enough spirit, I think adding Arctic armor could be an amazing thing for survivability. Because, well, it will make us to take less fire damage and less physical damage, so it sounds kinda cool. Also, cold damage per stage from Arctic armor can probably critically strike, which is kinda nice to be honest. An important part, there's also precision that can give a 30% increased accuracy rating while supported skill is active. And will increase multiplier only by 10%, so about 3 spirit here. And the same for clarity, we can get increased mana regeneration while the supported skill is active. So since we constantly will have Arctic armor, we will have bonuses from precision and clarity. If we will have enough spirit, we can also go for vitality here, so if we will have it. But it's kinda hard and we already have a lot of spirit locked, and that's pretty much it. Another important part is the skill Elemental Expression from Invoker itself. It's going to take one more slot here, and to that slot we're going to add the rest of supports. Since Elemental Expression right now, completely based on your stats, if we will have enough chances, I think perfectly we should have more intelligence than dexterity, because we are going to create icy wave of projectiles that way. I think it's probably going to be a strongest version of Elemental Expression. So it's going to take place here, and we're going to buff it with different stuff for cold damage. For example, we can get additional mastery if it will work, we can get like cold penetration if it will work, we can get like cold exposure, a lot of different options. I also wanted to mention that since we are playing Invoker, we have 8 under my enemies, critical hits ignore non-negative enemy monster elemental resistance. I think it's stacking perfectly with the build, because we already buffing crit, because we have inevitable critical and cast on critical too. And we also going to crit with our ball lightnings constantly, so it should work just perfectly in combination. If cast on critical by itself will be casted too fast, we will just need to change Orb of Storms to any other lightning skill, which can pretty much work here. And as such option, I have a Lightning Bolt. So if cast on critical is going to be casted too often, I think we also can just replace the orb with Lightning Bolt, and it will be cast like significantly more often. So what about the tree? Well, in tree we will have some cool options as well. Most of the time I think we're just going to the right and up after it, because I think we will need to take Whispers of Doom for additional cursors, because as you already seen I picked at least 2 cursors at the moment. And we also will be able to take a lot of additional lightning bonuses, for example, electric amplification here, we can take pure power, lightning damage per intelligence, we can take additional bonuses for energy shield too. And for better survivability, since we have a lot of mana and mana leech, we can just go mind over matter. I think it will pretty much worth it in almost all cases. So most of the time we're just going here, we're going to the left, we're going up, taking Whispers of Doom and taking Mind Over Matter. That's probably the most important part. We're also taking almost all penetration and elemental damage nodes on the road. If we can see something for lightning, it should work just fine too. We don't have a lot of mana cost, so raw mana could be an option, however I don't think it will properly worth it. But we can take Arcane Intensity here, because 3% of increased spell damage per maximum mana could worth it too. So one of the big questions, and why I'm not picking Archmage for it. Right now there's a big option to completely drop cast on critical and pick Archmage instead. However, I think with custom shock and how the build itself is currently set up, we're going to just spend too much mana at the moment for Archmage, because Archmage is going to increase the cost of our skills, and I don't think it should be mitigated that good, especially since we don't have mana leech instants such as Hand of Chiula could pretty much have, like Acolyte of Chiula. So I think right now that Archmage here will not work too good, and it could literally make us be out of mana like 70%. It's definitely going to buff damage, however, I think it's going to lower survivability, because Mind Over Matter is not going to help us when we will be like half out of mana or completely out of mana most of the time. But you can consider it as a possibility to drop a custom critical and take Archmage instead. Since we're Invoker and we're taking Lead Me Through Grace, there's a chance that we're going to receive a lot of spirit. I just don't know how much energy shield and EV generating you can get on your body armor. However, since we have those two numbers here, there's a small chance that we will have enough spirit to pretty much just get Archmage into the peak. That way we will be able to just add it. So here it is, and if we will have enough spirit, I think it could be alright addition to it. However, it will make our mana kinda an issue, especially since we are casting Ball Lightning pretty often. So that one stays just the idea. We can keep it, we can add it, and it will depend on the situation, because reservation for Archmage is like very high. Right now I'm not adding it to the example, and just watch the video in that case and add it if your build will feel like it. But generally, I'm sure that crazy amount of Ball Lightning that we are casting with Spellico and Volley here will work so good, and we're going to decimate most of the enemies with them, because Ball Lightnings are going to fly through whole arena and constantly hit enemies. Orb of Storm stacking it so well, and even Tempest Flurry is going to do some damage in that build. Because look, we have accuracy, we have like mana leech, we have conduction, so like faster attack support. Tempest Flurry is going to do some damage too. So the whole idea is very simple, and I'm sure the build is going to be very strong. It's one of my top picks for my start of the league. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more PoE Exile 2 content. I will probably come up with a few more build ideas. ronarray out.